Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a card from the catalog. The Stampin' Up! Set that I'm highlighting this week is the wonderful Hippest Hippos. This is such a fun set. I know not everybody is a fan of the fun little critters that you can get on a stamp, but I always love the little donkeys and the sheep and the chickens, just all the different fun and whimsical critter stamps that Stampin' Up! Has had through the years, and I collect them all, or at least almost all of them. I tried to resist for a little while, but I just love making fun, happy little cards with these, and I think they can be great for anybody. So it is my first video of the week, which means this is a card from the catalog. So of course I turned to the Celebration brochure, since this is a Celebration stamp set, and that means that you can get it free with a $50 purchase in July and August. So whenever you're ordering online, make sure to check that Celebration box and make sure you're getting everything that you qualify for with your purchase. So let me go ahead and flip my camera around so I can show you this a little bit easier. Alright, there we go. So here's the Celebration brochure, and Hippest Hippos is pretty close to the front, and there are fun hippo dies to go with it, and you can really dress your hippo up with different just fun little elements. You can put them in a boat or in a bucket. We're going to be using the bucket today, or tub, I guess is more what that is. So this is the card that I'll be making. I did leave a few elements out. Well, I guess I didn't leave them out. I replaced them with something else just to make it to where you don't have to buy quite so many different paper packs to be able to make this set. I will warn you though, it does use quite a few little pieces of paper. Scraps are great for this card. It's all small pieces. So if you have any of these scraps lying around, then this would be perfect. And it's also very easily interchangeable. So you don't have to have exactly these designer series papers, as you'll see. And there's a couple of just little things that I learned while making this card. That's one of the reasons why I love making cards from the catalog, is sometimes I'm just creatively stuck and need a little bit of help getting started again, and sometimes I learned new techniques and new things about our products from copying these. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I've done a lot of my die cutting ahead of time, just because there is a lot on this card, and I didn't want to take up your time by just watching me do a lot of die cutting. So I will start though with two die cuts. So this is from the Abigail Rose Designer Series paper, and this piece is 3 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and this is from the rectangle stitched framelits. I've got a bunch of glitter and paper pieces all over my magnet board, so just ignore that. But this is the 4th largest rectangle die. So I'm just going to center that up on this piece of paper and run that through real quick. Remember, when you're using, especially the mini stamp cut and emboss machine, to layer the plates, you don't want them all to be completely even at the end. You want to offset them a little bit, and that'll just help your plates to get started going through. Sometimes this machine can be a little stubborn if you have everything lined up exactly right. So now this is just the next smallest rectangle die. Let me see if I can get in frame just a little bit better. And then I'm using just a piece of basic white cardstock. And this is one I just had at my desk. I think it's 2 3/4 inches by way longer than it needs to be. It really only needs to be about 3 3/4 or 4 inches. Probably 4 inches would be really perfect. For now, that's all the die cutting I'm going to be doing. We will need to cut out our hippo in a minute. But first we need to get her colored or him, I don't know, and stamped. So I'm going to start with, I'm just going to use this piece of basic white that I had. And I'm using this hippo that is holding the flower, just like they did on the card in the catalog. And that card is found on page 5 if you want to pull it up on your own brochure. There we go. Now, something else that I've changed is they used gray granite and smoky slate blends. I have not added gray granite to my collection of blends yet, sadly. I need to get on that soon. So I'm just going to be using smoky slate for everything. The wonderful thing about blends is you can layer the colors and blend them together and make shaded areas or lighter areas. Very handy. So I bought my smoky slate way back when, well, it's not way back, but a couple of years ago, probably 3 years ago. And Stampin' Up! At that time only sold, they only sold one blend. So you could buy the light one or the dark one, or you could buy them both. So I just bought the light one because I could layer it. I didn't do that with all my colors, but I did do it with basic black and smoky slate. And I need to go ahead and buy the combo because I use this a lot more than I thought I would. And I would love to have the darker color to go with the lighter color. But not yet. I don't know if you can see it, but I goobered. Let me see if I can sharpen my camera. Okay, so you can kind of see where I messed up a little bit and colored outside of the lines. It's not a big deal, but it is going to bug me. So I'm going to very carefully use my color lifter in those two places and just pull some of that color off. You can also use the color lifter if you want to lighten up some areas on your hippo. I'm going to leave mine just like that. Okay, so I'm using the daffodil blend for the flower, and you can use the light or the dark. I just grabbed the light out of habit. It looks like the card in the catalog did use the darker Daffodil Delight. And I'm using Old Olive. Just kidding, I'm using Light Mossy Meadow for the leaf. There we go. So you can see it just took that color that was outside the lines just right off of the hippo. I love that. Okay, so this one is ready to run through the Stamp Cut and Emboss machine again. There you go. One hippo cut out and ready to be put on a card. So let me just go ahead and grab my card base. Okay, so I have a crumb cake card base. And I have that piece of Abigail Rose Designer Series paper. and then I have my basic white. So I'm going to start by just gluing my hippo right here, kind of hanging off the page. There we go. And then I did this ahead of time, but this is one of the things I wanted to show you that I discovered. So this is the silver specialty paper, and there's 3 different finishes of silver. So we've got this one that is just not quite as shiny. This one's a little darker, and it is very shiny. And then this one is your silver, very silver, brighter, lighter silver specialty paper. So I'm going to take my smoky slate, this is the light blend again, and I'm just going to go over the edge of this a little bit. And it just makes it a little bit darker. Let's see, there you can kind of see it, and you can go over it however you want, a lot, a little. It's up to you. But when I tried to do that, so the first card that I made, and I'm going to show you this card. So this is my practice card, and you see that tub, it looks a little wonky. And it almost looks like I have a different piece on there where the sentiment is. And that sentiment is part of the stamp set, by the way. I stamped it with Versamark, and I heat embossed it with white embossing powder, which is the same thing that I did on this one. And so that worked great. I did heat from underneath the cardstock instead of over the cardstock. But when I used my blend, it did something different. So I wasn't using this lighter color. I was using this medium color that's not quite as shiny. And so look what happens when I bring it over. It strips that color off. Isn't that crazy? So let's see if we can see that. I can't see my... So it just stripped it off. So I played with it a little bit and actually kind of had some fun doing that. And I just made sure that I cleaned the brush off of my blends before I moved on. But I thought it was interesting that that's what it did on that one. But on the light one, it actually allowed me to add the color on. So I thought I would show that to you. I keep trying to think of ways that I could use that to, I don't know, I just think it could be fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of liquid glue here. The one on my card, my practice, I used dimensionals, but I wanted to see if I could add it with glue to where it won't poke up quite so high. It'll still be a little bit because mostly I'm just gluing it to the hippo here. So this one, you can see there's quite a bit of difference. And then here is this one, just gluing it to the hippo and not really gluing it around. So there's a little bit of lift on the sides, but nothing like what a dimensional would do. Okay, so let's pull all these little pieces out. The one in the catalog used pieces from the Bratz 6x6 Designer Series paper, A Wash in Beauty, Hues of Happiness. I think all 3 of those. Oh, no, Pretty Prince was used on here somewhere too. I'm not sure where. And so it was Pretty Prince, Hues of Happiness, and the Bratz Designer Series paper. I decided I had scraps already from my Hues of Happiness. So I'm just using Hues of Happiness for all 3 because I don't even have the Bratz 6x6 Designer Series paper. I should, but I don't. and I didn't want to cut into my Awash in Beauty yet. So I just went with the same Hues of Happiness DSP and just chose different colors. And like I said, this was already scraps, so I didn't have to cut anything new. So I always recommend using your scraps like that when you can. And all of these little pieces were cut from scraps. So this is Calypso Coral. This is the This one is the Awash in Beauty. Pretty Prince was used for one of these. So this is Awash in Beauty, and I'll show you. So this is the design that they cut from. If you don't have this, or you don't want to cut into it yet, you could always use Pear Pizzazz or Old Olive instead. And then there's also two pieces. So this one and this one, these are just cut from Mossy Meadow. And then there's 5 pieces from the Awash in Beauty. Oof. And then the little water splashes, this is Pool Party. So like I said, lots of little pieces to this card. So the first thing that I'm going to do is get out my liquid glue. I have a sponge dauber. And I have my silicone mat. What would I do without this thing? So you can see where I've had a little puddle of glue in the corner already. I'm going to place this down, upside down, and then use my sponge dauber just to add a little bit of glue to the back. And I'm not going all the way up because it's going to be hanging off of this card, or this cardstock. And then this inside piece I'm not using, but I'm going to grab the outline here of the little diving glasses. Swim goggles. Couldn't think of that word. Do y'all ever do that? Do you have words you know, but then when you need them, they just leave your brain? I do it all the time. Okay, so I'm just putting that right there. Oops, I covered her nose. Don't cover her nose. Okay. And then you could do the same technique for the, in fact, I think I will for just a little bit. I'm not going to do them all this way, but I'll start out with this little sponge dauber. You could also just... So, flipping this over, this scrap, I think, has a piece of a sticker sheet on it. So I could actually just pull that off, but I didn't. And try not to do what I just did on that one. I put it on a piece of glue that was already on my sheet here, my silicone mat. So be careful that you don't make everything super sticky by placing it upside down on already sticky places. Okay. So now I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to pick up these Pool Party water splashes. I'm just going to add a little dollop of glue to the back. It really doesn't take much. And then I'm going to place one here. Okay, so now I'm going to start with this yellow. I'm placing it on the top. I'm kind of trying to keep the, oh, I just did that upside down, so now I'm going to place it over here. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. I want it a little bit more than halfway up. And I just want it sticking over a little bit. I'm going to put the pink on the bottom. It's going to stick out a little farther. But I don't want it all the way at the edge. So I think right there is good. And then the blue is not going to stick out even as far as that. And it's going to go in between and kind of underneath those two. So that's why I put it on the silicone mats, because since I accidentally got blue on the back of it, not blue, glue on the back of it, I could peel it off of the mat easily. And that feels a little too far to me, so I'm going to go ahead and take my paper snips and just carefully trim off the end. Yep, that looks better. Okay, so now, move that back out of the way, put the lid on my glue. I'm going to grab my dimensionals. Actually, I'm at the end of another sheet of dimensionals, so I've just cut them up in pieces because we don't want to waste anything. And it's up to you. You can stick these pieces to this smaller piece, or you could glue it straight on your striped piece. Either way works just fine. I am going to use dimensionals also, well, the pieces of dimensionals, to attach this to my card base. So that is something I did not do on my practice one. On my practice one, I only like to have 2 layers of dimensionals. It's just my weird thing. Some people do 3 or 4 layers of dimensionals, and that's fine. I just don't. So, so I have to pick where I want my dimensional layers to be. Every once in a blue moon, I'll do 3 layers, but typically I don't. If you get your cards too thick, you might have to add postage, and I don't want to have to think about that. So I typically just stick with the 2 layers. So this is my 1 layer, and then this is my next layer. And then the final thing to do is to add some elegant faceted gems. So I'm using the clear. I'm going to take one right under here. I'm going to put one here. And don't worry, I'll lift this up in just a second so you can see it a little better. There we go. There is the front of this card. Let me just see what happens when I... There we go. And then a little zoom. So, what do you think of this card from the catalog? And what do you think of just celebration in general this time? I love that we get to do celebration twice a year now. It's not as long either time, but it's twice the amount of goodies and opportunities to order celebration items, because I don't know about you, but I don't tend to make just tons of orders all at once. I like to make one big order and then I wait a little bit before I can make another order because budget. But anyway, so I hope you like this card, and I hope that you like this stamp set because it's what I'm creating with all week. I will probably be using the dies a lot of that too, but I know not everybody has a stamp cut and emboss machine, so there will be at least one, maybe two cards that I just use the stamps on and I don't use dies and things with, so that you can get an idea of what you can do even if you don't have the dies. Alright, y'all, thank you so much for watching. If you're in the United States and don't have a demonstrator, I would love to be yours. I have a link down below for my website, and from there you can shop my store. You can contact me and ask any questions. If there's a card from the catalog that you would like to see made, let me know and I'll do my best to get it on my list. Or I may already know that it's coming up. Who knows? And I can let you know if I do. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button for me. And if you are not a subscriber but like what you see, then I'd love it if you would subscribe to my video and you can be notified every time I post a new one, which is typically twice a week. Sometimes 3, but not very often these days. I've just got too busy. Alright, y'all. Hope you have a great week. Happy stamping.